Hey everyone, and welcome back to Timeless. I just ranked up to Mythic for the season, got rank 17 right away, so let's show off what I've been playing since the new set dropped. I was playing a lot of Blood Moon Energy to rank up earlier in the season, but lately I've been playing this slot machine build, and I think I went 11 and 1 on the final run up to Mythic. So this build is very, very strong, and I think it's a big improvement over the previous builds of the slot machine from the old seasons. Of course, the obvious improvements are Ancient Tomb and Gemstone Caverns, but the deck has gotten a lot more consistent for quite a few reasons. So even this deck has gone through a lot of evolutions in the couple of days since the set has dropped. I saw people making Omniscience versions that performed very, very well, that actually had infinite wins in them. But then this version, Greaseball came up with it, like Greaseball and Riley. And this version is dropping the Omnis, just to go for the very straightforward thing. We're going to play 4 Atraxas, 4 Elendas, 4 Trolls. We're going to maximize out on threats. We're going to play 4 copies of Stock Up to maximize on card advantage. And this deck is just full of redundancy. And it's become very, very consistent. So how this deck has always worked, and why it's called the slot machine, is because you more or less mulligan to finding a very fast, aggressive opening hand that your opponent can't deal with, right? Something like, land, Dark Ritual, Sorin, Elenda on turn 1 on the play. It's very difficult for your opponent to deal with, and they most of the time cannot deal with it. Yeah, it's called the slot machine because you got to mulligan a couple times till you hit that, so there's a lot of variance involved. And sometimes your opponent can answer it, and they will turn the quarter on you. So, kind of feels like you're gambling a little bit. But with this set, I feel like the deck has really become a lot more consistent, and it went from, a gimmick that works on ladder to something that will be very consistent on ladder. I'm not going to guarantee this is competitively viable for the rest of time, of course, but day 1 on ladder, this has been very, very, very strong. So the reason why is mostly because of stock up gaming plus Ancient Tomb. I feel like this deck has a lot of redundancy in it and the ability to actually recoup card advantage with stock up. I feel like that in addition to just keeping hands that are like a busted, Sorin Elenda or Show and Tell Atraxa opener, you could just keep something that it's like, okay, Grief plus Reanimate plus Stock Up plus a black card to pitch, and that actually gets you there most of the time. Or you can keep something like, the proactive discard to interact with your opponent, Stock Up, and then one of your combo pieces. So just Sorin or just Show and Tell, and you will find the other half off of your Stock Ups pretty consistently. And another thing I love about the deck, I did kind of just say it, but we're playing 8 discard spells in the main deck. These are great proactive ways to interact with your opponent. I really love that this deck leverages so much interaction despite being really proactive and really degenerate. Day 1 of a format, it's always great to punch a hole in your opponent's hand, and we're playing all 8 discard spells. And you know how I build Mardu Energy, I also build it with 8 discard spells, so I think this is a really, really solid plan for Timeless. And since we're playing 4 Thoughtseize, we also have some very degenerate lines, like you have an Atrax in your opener, you just Dark Ritual Thoughtseize yourself, Reanimate, all on turn 1. I did that, a couple minutes ago, and that's a really sweet line that a lot of decks will struggle to answer. And this deck's mana base is pretty solid. You do get to play Ancient Tomb, and you're really only 2 colors, so you don't have too much difficulty with colors. With Chrome Mox, which you are supporting, you will occasionally have trouble getting that to tap for blue, but you can always fetch a blue land. You don't need more than 1 blue source in this deck ever. As for the sideboard, we do have 3 slots dedicated to Gemstone Caverns. You're always going to sideboard this in when you're on the draw, and I generally just trim 1 of each fetch land just to make room of it. I want to keep my land count about the same, even with Caverns in the deck. As for the rest of the sideboard slots, Chalice of the Void is a very strong one against energy. This is another big boost that the deck has gotten. It's gotten the ability to a lot more consistently Chalice on 1 with Ancient Tomb here. And Chalice on 1 is a great way to keep a deck like Energy out of the game, because in the past, Energy was a tough matchup, because either they would Thoughtseize you and prevent you from doing your thing, or even if you were on the play and you put an Elenda into play, they would just Source the Plowshares it on their first turn, and they would actually be able to grind the game back under control. They would be able to deal with the token and the creature that Elenda created and actually eventually win. But if you slam a Chalice on 1, Energy will have a very, very difficult time actually getting back into the game. Disruptor Flute as well. We have consistent access to 2 mana between Ancient Tomb and Chrome Mox. So Disruptor Flute is just an S+ card in the meta right now. It is very, very strong. When you're up against Show and Tell, how I recommend sideboarding is actually you take all the copies of Show and Tell out of your deck and you bring in 4 copies of Disruptor Flute to name Show and Tell. When I say Show and Tell, I mean the dedicated Omni-Tell where they only can win through putting Omniscience into play off of a Show and Tell. We have one Masker Worm as an extra card against energy. This is the sweet one to reanimate against their boards. We also have Consigned to Memory, which is the card that I'm kind of down on because this has been in the sideboard the whole time. I haven't made changes to this deck because it's felt very good. It's been in the sideboard the whole time. It is quite good against Eldrazi, of course, but I don't think you really need it. I think Eldrazi is such a lopsided matchup, you don't need sideboard cards. So I think if you are playing with this deck and you want to experiment, you can switch this out for another blue piece of interaction. You could try Spell Pierce. Honestly, even Stifle could be a lot better than Consigned Memory because you could use it to defend against Strip Mine and also proactively attack your opponent's mana, which is really mean. Another note on Strip Mine, too, is that this deck is not playing it. And a lot of people were saying that Strip Mine was going to be a 100% ubiquitous 4-of in every single deck, and a lot of other people said, let's wait, let's see. It seems like really proactive combo decks like this one do not want the Strip Mine. They don't have room for it in the mana base. And also, like, the Omniscience Show and Tell builds have also not been playing it. And obviously, decks like Belcher are also not playing it. So I know it's very early to say, but it seems like Strip Mine is not truly mandatory in Timeless. Not yet, at least. We'll have to see how it shakes out. I was also playing Energy without Strip Mine, and it felt like totally fine without Strip Mine in the deck. But again, very early, just initial feelings. I believe that's it for the deck. This is pretty much the same old Gamba pile as before, except it's a lot more consistent because you can support Stock Up now, and we're also playing 4 Troll Reanimate and 8 Discard spells. So let's go through some games on ladder and see how it goes. Alright, game 1, we're going to be up against Griffin MTG. We're going to be on the draw here. Our starting hand does not contain enough action to be worth keeping. Something I found with this version of the deck is we're mulliganing a lot less. Like, there are really a lot of keepable 7s and 6s. Like, for example, if the second Storin was a card like Stock Up, I would totally be into keeping this hand, as it's good enough most of the time. Wow, this is a really unfortunate one. No black mana source, otherwise we would have had, like, the really sick line of, like, Thoughtseize yourself, Reanimate, and Alenda on turn 1. And there's your Sorin Alenda on turn 2. So let's go ahead and keep this. We'll keep Grief as our interaction here. Now, we do have to hope that, like, Griffin is not really going to interact with us in the first 2 turns here, because we had to mulligan a lot. We don't have the sauce here, and unfortunately, we are going to get Thoughtseized. So the deck did low roll in the first opening hand of the video, though I do promise you it's been a lot more consistent with all these new cards in the deck. We're going to go ahead and surveil here. Hopefully we can find either a Sorin or a Show and Tell, as either of those cards would get us back into the game. Stock Up would also be incredibly good. Worst case scenario is we're just, like, paying 4 mana for a Grief in a turn or 2. Let's see what our opponent's up to. It could just be mono black midrange, in which case they have a lot of discard, but they otherwise can't recover against us once we actually do get our threats into play. Alright, Birds of Paradise. It looks like it's one of those green lands piles, which have been very cool. I do want to try playing one of these decks next. One of the ones that really leverage into Strip Mine and the green creatures to help recur it. Looks like they have a free spell. Do they play Grief in their deck? They might. They might consider griefing me, but if they grief my Alenda, it actually turns on Reanimate as a draw. Also, notably, my opponent's Urborg is helping me out here. It's going to make my Ancient Tomb painless, which is honestly really awesome. In fact, I'm going to keep this Dark Ritual on top, and then use my painless Ancient Tomb to cast a Grief. Alright, cool. Yeah, and I'll take your Rumble. They had a Chrome Mox. That's fine. So my opponent is just top decking, as am I, of course, but my top decks are generally super powerful in this deck. And I think we can go ahead and turn the Grief sideways here. We are technically clocking them just a smidge faster than they're clocking us, but any top deck small creature from them changes the formula. The opponent does have a lot of good top decks. They have a lot of, like, the green creatures that recur lands out of the graveyard, so if they put one of those into play, they would instantly just start getting this Verdant Catacombs back over and over again, start making a bunch of mana, then be able to play anything out of their deck. Yeah, they just put the Thoughtseize away, because they actually do not want to Thoughtseize this card, as it'll enable my Reanimates. Of course, they have a Deathrite Shaman to counter the Reanimate, as it stands right now, but you can't count on that staying that way forever. Alright, ooh, there's Sorin. Alright, nice. I don't have a black card to grief them yet again. So we're just going to attack with our Grief. We're going to have our opponent act first. Maybe they tap out for Bowmasters and confirm to me that the way is clear. Just surveilling. That's fine. I think we're just going to go for maximum power and toughness on the board with Alenda here. Oh yeah, you just want to Fatal Push? That is cool by me. Soren. Alright, see you later, dude. Alright, that shows you how we kind of just drew out of it with this deck. Like, we just had a lot of good top decks, and it's not like we even hit our amazing top decks. Our amazing top decks are, you know, a stock up very early. It took us 4 turns to draw the Soren, and we were still totally fine. So we are up against a land destruction deck. I don't like bringing in Chalice against these random creature decks. Usually, how I sideboard is I take out like 3 fetches like that for Gemstone Caverns. I'm just gonna keep 1 extra land in over a Grief. Just because we know our opponent is really packing it on the land destruction. We're going to be careful playing our lands around land destruction if possible. We want to keep fetches up. We want to just play Kooom Mox instead of lands if possible, or we want to keep a hand that can win all in 1 turn. This doesn't win all in 1 turn. This is the kind of summon you would mulligan. Again, this is really close. Like, if this hand had an Ancient Tomb for the stock up, I'd probably keep it. But we can't count on our lands staying in play against this particular deck. Oh, this one's interesting. Oh, do we Gemstone? This is so interesting, actually. I think I'm going to keep this for science. We're keeping it for science, guys. Gemstone Caverns, and then under the Gemstone Caverns, I'll put this Ancient Tomb. So if we draw any fatty, we win. If we draw a stock up, we are in a great situation. I think I actually should have kept the second Soren over second Show and Tell just for Grief purposes. Good to have the pitch cards for Grief, pitch cards for Kooom Mox as well. There's more black than blue in the deck. Let's see what my opponent's going to be up to here. If we just rip like an Alenda off the top, then we don't deserve this one. Just saying it. Alright, so there's the Strip Mine. Like I said, my opponent's going to have a lot of sauce. I also considered not exiling this Ancient Tomb here, but I feel like if they Strip Mine me off my colored source, I'm screwed no matter what. Does Show and Tell Troll win the game? Let's be honest, guys. We kept a really goofy hand, so, you know, play goofy games, win goofy prizes. Let's do it. Because I know my land is going to get blown up. Of course, I could Troll Cycle and get another colored source if they go after this. But then if they go after Ancient Tomb, I'm only going to have 2 mana in play, and then, ooh, I don't know. They're the kind of deck that can recur this Strip Mine, so let's not count on having our mana in play. This Troll requires 3 blockers. And those 3 blockers have to add up to 5 power to kill it. That's not very likely for my opponent. And even if they do, they play like a 4/4, it'll at least trade for the board and buy me a lot of time. And yeah, they did go after my Ancient Tomb, so even if I Swamp Cycled, I would not have 3 mana in play. My opponent has 3 blockers, but they would not ever want to actually block in this situation. Let's see if Troll takes him 0 to 20. Opponent played 1 more blocker than passed. We'll just hold this Kooom Mox in hand. There's no reason to play it out super early. This is a good surprise mana source against my opponent's land destruction deck. And we're here to clock our opponent. This is where the game gets really goofy. Alright, Alenda. Ooh, fantastic. Okay, so we draw 1 more piece of mana. So any land out of our deck. And we can Soren Alenda next turn to seal the deal. Notably, there's no creatures in graveyards for Deathrite Shaman to exile. Yeah, and my opponent just scoops it. They could have had another turn, just triple chump blocking my Troll. Also top 10, let's go. But yeah, this is an example of how funny some of the games with this deck can be. And in addition to making goofy games like that, the deck actually doesn't like do the card advantage thing with Stock Up and Atraxa. Like, let's see if we can get a game like that up next. Alright, game 2. We are on the play against the Lurrus deck. We can ask ourselves, is Reanimate a Troll good enough? So note, this is Reanimate Troll with like a DT backup, so we can fetch whatever we want out of our deck. It's also Strip Mine proof, because we're going to cycle the Troll and grab another land. I would go ahead and say that this is good enough, even on the draw. This is definitely like one of the weaker hands that this deck can have. considering like we're trying to throw an Atraxa into play. But we're going to say that this is enough. And then after we do our initial disruption with Troll, we could do something like DT for Alenda and do the Sorin Alenda gaming thing. Also, we don't even have to reanimate Troll. We could just like play Watery Grave, Swamp Cycle. Ooh. Oh, decisions. I don't think that actually helps us right away. We're still going to Swamp Cycle. But next turn, I might just DT for Alenda. It depends on what my opponent shows me. If they're like just Rakdos, then I will probably try to jam Sorin Alenda instead. I'll think about it, though. It depends on what we draw, what our opponents draw, what they do. Just reanimating the Troll is fine, but like if they were to make both of these DRCs 3/3s right away, then I'd be very scared of the life loss. And I would much rather have Alenda in play. And what's really neat is we could actually do Alenda and reanimate the Troll together on turn 3 because of this Ancient Tomb. That's a cool bit of upside in case. Alright, of course if we just spike the Alenda, and we just play it. Stock up gaming here, so if this game does go long, we can go ahead and leverage that. Let's go ahead and grab Alenda here. Saint Alenda, you got it. Now my opponent is a black deck, so they could discard me. This is not at all a discard-proof hand, but if they did discard me, I'd probably just stock up and then reanimate the Troll. However, I'm really running out of life at that point, and DRC probably has Delirium if they're putting a sorcery in their graveyard. Yeah, actually, Sorcery Land, they've guaranteed Delirium if they want to do that. We do need this Sorin Alenda to go through here. Could also reanimate something else if like another card hits their graveyard. Or if they make a mistake and steal my Alenda with the Thoughtseize. Actually, we have 2 Sorins, right? So they can't even discard me. They would have to discard Alenda, which I would just pay the 7 life to reanimate. These hasty DRCs are gonna like really beat me up, but I think that's fine because I take 66. I take 7 to reanimate that? Okay, maybe it's it was a little too much. We'll see what they take and then make our decision from there, right? Our opponent's on a very, very aggro deck, and they were on the play. So this is going to be a little tough. Oh, and we kept like a Troll reanimate hand against the aggro. Okay, they're letting us Sorin the Alenda into play, which is good for us. Another Ancient Tomb on top. Not great. So we do have to pay the 2 here. We put Alenda into play. We will 100% need to shut down one of these. It's just too much damage. We got a 13. We should not be reanimating anything else as it is. Dreadhorde Arcanist is an option, technically. I'm not believing in that right now. I'm reconsidering it now, right? Nah. It can flashback reanimate, which is like so cool. This is such a cool card. But I don't think it's the correct play to spend 2 life on that. But I don't know, like, what else are we doing with this card, right? Is 2 life going to lose us the game? Maybe with Lightning Bolt in my opponent's hand it will. I think they should have just bolted me instead of bolting Sorin, to be honest. Because they got me very close to dead. They really should be trying to aggro me out here. Because with Sorin dead, I mean, they're either attacking Sorin or bolting it, right? It doesn't really matter, I guess. With Sorin dead, I'm only gaining 4 per turn. And they're doing 6 damage per turn to me, right? Okay. Oh, grief. Okay. Yeah. Let's get rid of one of these reanimates. I don't want to hardcast the grief. It costs 2 life off of Ancient Tomb. We really need to be careful here. And then I just need to take a look at what my opponent might have. Okay, they're out of here. Great. Alright, game 2. You know, I actually might Chalice this. I said, you know, like, only energy gets Chalice, but, like, this is just 1-drop aggro. Like, we Chalice this. And then we're going to be on the draw, so this comes in. So it's all these fetches out. And then I like Thoughtseize and Grief Reanimate the least against, like, these sorts of decks. So we're going to take the Grief out. I'll keep Thoughtseize in because it allows, like, the self-Thoughtseize lines. And then 1 Massacre Worm as well. Massacre Worm, I mean, it doesn't really line up against Arcanist and DRC, actually. It much better lines up against Guide of Souls, so I guess we will not play that. Alright, Kooom goes first. We do have turn 1 Sorin Alenda, like, very easy make. I guess I have this Gemstone Caverns here to really enable it, so let's go. Gemstone Caverns. Let's exile Show and Tell here. I like this because we're strip mine proof, because if they strip mine us here, we just cycle the troll, we get a swamp, and then we kill them anyway. If we don't get strip mined, then we will have 4 mana available to us on turn 1 so that we get Thoughtseize and Sorin Alenda. See, this is what I say when this deck is just stacked with redundancy. Like, this feels BS compared to the old version of the deck. Like, it's just so much more explosive and consistent with how often you get to do things on, like, turn 1, turn 2. Okay, we're gonna get Thoughtseized here. That's life. We're gonna let that resolve. Hopefully they make a mistake with it. But realistically, I'm sure they just take Sorin. Can't screw that up. And if they do just take Sorin, I'm gonna get a Surveil land off my troll. We have a lot of good draws. Another Sorin is a good draw. Once we get the blue mana, Stock Up is a really good draw. Show and Tell is a good draw. Reanimate is a good draw for the troll, of course. So it's the question, do we want to Thoughtseize or do we want to Reanimate? Let's go ahead and Surveil real quick, actually, just in case we get an even better one. Okay, we're going to draw Sorin next turn. That's very good to know. That's incredibly good to know. So next turn, we're going to spend 4 mana on Thoughtseize, Sorin, Reanimate, and then this turn, we're going to spend 1 mana on just Reanimating the troll. I mean, not Sorin, Reanimate. Sorin, Dark Ritual for Sorin, Thoughtseize, Alenda. That's 4. We couldn't split up the mana any better. We couldn't do Thoughtseize. Oh yeah, now they can take my Alenda. Or maybe they take my Thoughtseize. They don't know there's a Sorin on top. They take Alenda. Sure. What was I going to say? Yeah, we couldn't do 2 that turn just because of Dark Ritual. We couldn't split our mana 2 and 3 like that. We had to split it 1 and 4, if that makes sense. Alright, yeah. But what we can do is we can actually still play the cards. Because Sorin has a neat extra ability on it. Oh, holy moly, Teamer Battle Rage. Chad behavior. Sorin has this neat extra ability where he lets any creature gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn, so we can just start like gaining 6 life a turn. Cool. My opponent gives up. That's understandable. Rank it up. Rank 8. Alright, on the play for game 3. What we got here? We have a stock up gaming kind of hand. This is a turn 1 troll into play against Lurrus. If it's Lurrus energy, turn 1 troll is a little sus. We do have Demonic Tutor afterward, which is what actually makes me pretty confident in this hand. We have both DT and stock up, so we actually have the ability to kind of keep playing Magic, which is awesome. Actually, what I'm going to do, instead of keeping stock up, because we have the DT, we're just going to DT for a really good show and tell target. But turn 1, we're just going to troll Reanimate. And then, of course, I'm saying this because we need something for the Kooom Mox, and it's going to end up being stock up. You also get very lucky and just draw something for show and tell, of course. These 4 cards are going to get all consumed on turn 1. My opponent's mulliganing a little bit, which is always good to see. Great. Stock up, so Kooom Mox only taps for blue, but that's fine because we can get a black source here. Basic Swamp. And welcome back, Troll. Alright, let's see if Troll can go 20-0. If not, we're just going to DT for Atraxa and then show and tell it into play. It's just that simple. And even if my opponent's energy with like a Static Prison, then like, I don't care because I got my card advantage, right? Alright, they Thoughtseize me. One of the best cards that they can have, but Troll is now a 3-turn clock. If they're not Esper Frog, they're going to have a lot of difficulty here. I don't deserve that top deck, by the way. That was bullshit. But you know what? Blue players, Psychic Frog players, they deserve to lose. I don't deserve to win, but this guy deserves to lose, right? Alright, nice Polluted Delta. And I just get to draw like 5 cards out of my deck. How fantastic, right? Do we have Sorin in here? We do. So we got to take Dark Ritual, Sorin, Alenda, Kooom Mox. Wait, hold on. Let's admire this. Let's admire this. Grief. Or Sorin Alenda, Dark Ritual, Chrome Mox. I don't have a pitch card for Chrome Mox, so we couldn't Sorin Alenda that turn. Ah, dang. Imagine if we had a black card in hand, we would have been able to Sorin Alenda that turn too. Anyway, we're gonna do the plan. I don't like Chalice against Psychic Frog Gaming, even though they do have a lot of one-drops. Some people might disagree with me, but I think it's better just to keep your plan intact and to interact with them with discard. If you have a different opinion, though, let me know. Because I could be convinced that Chalice is good in this matchup, but I think the consistency is better, and I think discard is a plenty good way to interact with blue cope. Alright, our opponent here is going first. Ah, if only we had a blue source. If this basic swamp was a fetch, I'd probably keep this. This is close. Close to the kind of stock-up gaming hand you want to see. This is interesting, right? No, right? Just throw it back. Because I like being able to Thoughtseize my opponent, but then I have to draw something. Obviously, there's a lot of good draws. Sorin, stock-up, show and tell, Demonic Tutor. There's a lot of winning draws in the deck. Even Reanimate for this grief, but no, I think we could do better. Okay, I like this. This is just like Grief Reanimate. Or even Troll Reanimate. Opponent's going first. Keep 5. What do we want to keep, guys? I think we keep Ancient Tomb and Troll Reanimate. And then we Troll for a blue-black source. We can keep Grief and 1 Reanimate. We'll do Troll. We're going to go all in on this Troll again. Troll served us well last game. I want to keep Undercity Sewers, just in case my opponent is Strip Mine Gaming over the second Reanimate. Yeah, second Reanimate's pretty gas. That could be convinced otherwise. Alright, let's see if we get discarded here. Okay, cool. So, second Reanimate did insulate us against discard. I guess that was the right mulligan decision. Taking Troll would actually, troll me really hard, because now I have to draw a colored mana source. Yeah. Uh-oh. I get trolled, but I'm Tisk. So any colored mana source, another Troll, all good plays. Colored mana source also enables stock-up gaming, which is great. Chrome Mox also gets us there. Although Chrome Mox, we'd have to choose between being able to reanimate once and being able to, stock up and go through our deck. I would actually, if we drew a Chrome Mox, I would pitch Show and Tell and stock up. I think stock up is legitimately that strong. Stock up should be able to find us the black land for reanimate. Yeah, we're gonna get strip mined here. That's tragic. So any black mana source off the top of the deck, and we still probably win the game. Unfortunate it didn't come. So now my opponent's going to be able to hold up Mana Drain, and, that's the slot machine. There could have been maybe a way I'd insulate myself a little bit better. I did insulate myself against discard with double Reanimate. Oh, they're going to Flute Reanimate? That would be really smart. Good job. Okay, so we'll see what happens. We can definitely draw our way out of this. Stock up is one hell of a drug. I have drawn my way out of situations like this before. If it truly gets that crazy, we could discard Attracts at a hand size. Vexing Bobble, they brought all the hate. Yeah, we might discard Attracts at a hand size with the plan of reanimating it. Of course, this costs 4 mana, but with a Dark Ritual in our hand, we can get there. The only issue is that, my opponent's on, the typical Sultai, Blue Cope, Lurrus kind of deck, so they're going to be packing counter spells as well. It's going to be pretty difficult to punch through everything. But we'll find a way. We'll find a way. Yep, let's discard Attracts at a hand size, like I said. Vexing Bauble also counters Chrome Mox, now that I think about it. I didn't think about that at first. I was just like, oh, it turns off my Grief. No, it turns off my Chrome Mox, which is a good percentage of my mana sources in the deck. I have 14 lands and 4 Chrome Mox left in the deck. So it's unfortunate to lose those 4 Chrome Moxes as live draws. Also, losing the Grief as a live draw, like we just said, is unfortunate because we have these reanimates that we really want to just exile to enable another card because they're useless. Mostly useless. Obviously I could still cast it, but I would definitely be interested in, exiling the first one. I mean, I'm chilling. I'm gonna chill until my opponent puts like a Psychic Frog or something in play to kill me. Because oftentimes these blue decks are pretty light on win conditions. And they can take quite a while to kill you, and that's quite a while that I can draw out of this situation. And really all that I need is like Surveil Land into second land, and then like we are very competitive again. Because it's not like we have one thing to cast. We've got Stock Up Gaming, we have Reanimate, even if it costs 4 mana. Yeah, it's unfortunate they do hit one card in the graveyard. We do have Stock Up Gaming to save us, of course. Kooom Mox, like we just said, does not work. Do I want to just discard it? Probably, sadly. I think I discard a Reanimate first. Considering we're staring down both this and this. It's very unlikely to do anything. Strip Mine, yeah. Yeah, Lurrus to hand. Okay, we'll go ahead and give it to them. If they got Lurrus in their hand, they can just start cycling their things, drawing a bunch of cards, and slowly clocking me with the Lurrus. We're going to be back on the play. Do we want Chalice? Let's be honest, we want Chalice for all these 1-drops? I kind of want it, but I still want to like stick to my guns where I personally, this is a personal opinion, I don't know if it's an absolute fact, I personally think just playing 8 discard is enough to beat a blue deck. And that if we start like bending over backwards to play Chalice, we are going to hurt our own consistency. That's just my opinion, though. All right, we got Stock Up Gaming here. This is an interesting one, right? So we can stock up on turn 2, and I said in the deck intro, I'm a big fan of just stock upping on turn 2. But we're against a very interactive deck, so I think we're actually going to mulligan and we're going to look for something more proactive. We will consider this to be a lot more proactive. So we're going to Thought Seize them turn 1. And then I'm going to get rid of this Grief. We might Troll Reanimate after that. We might do something else. Since they actually have Strip Mine in their deck, what I might want to do is just Troll Cycle on turn 1. Just to make sure I don't get cut off of mana. I think I'm going to do that, actually. It'll be super safe. Just going to Troll Cycle here. Nothing crazy. And then we're going to Thought Seize them turn 2. Maybe that's an argument to keep a Grief instead, because I could have Griefed turn 0. We'll see what they're up to, though. They discard me. It's like really not the end of the world. They could, of course, take one of these 2 cards, which is cards I'm relying on to get me through this. Okay. They discard me. That's fine. They can't mana screw me because I have 2 trolls. If they do take a troll, I'm just going to Troll Cycle for a Surveil Land and Thought Seize them. Demonic Tutor is a crazy card. I think that's what they have to take with their Thought Seize. Although you could argue for a lot of things, and I would listen to you on most of those arguments. Okay, yeah, they did end up taking the DT. Totally agree with that decision. It's a scary card. So let's cycle here. I think I'm going to grab a Shock. We could cycle the other troll for a Surveil now that I think about it. Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on here. Yeah. I mean, the Vexing Bauble doesn't do anything. How does Vexing Bauble screw us, guys? It screws us by messing with the Kooom Mox. I'll just play the Kooom Mox this turn, pitching the troll. And then we kind of have to draw. We're kind of drawing dead, but we would have a lot of mana, so we'd have a lot of good draws. My opponent, if they Strip Mine us, they're also going to be kind of stuck. Brainstorm is also just a very powerful card, and maybe I should be taking it. Brainstorm is a very powerful card, and maybe I should be taking it. Yeah, I'm going to take their Brainstorm. I'm going to let them bobble me. Get rid of this troll in advance. So we have a lot of good top decks. Reanimate, Show and Tell, Stock Up. Any of those cards, very good to see on top of the library right now. My opponent will end up brainstorming instead of slamming the hate piece, which is fine. Like, this hate piece doesn't do that much. It's kind of narrow. It really needs other cards to help. Like in game 2, we were in a tricky situation and this one kind of sealed the deal, but it didn't do it by itself. Okay, yeah, and they will go ahead and commit to the strip mine. Yeah, this stripped me off of blue, now that I think about it. Was there a way that I could have fetched better to avoid that? What I could have done is I could have not put the troll under the mox. Oh no, punished. I could have not put the troll under the mox, allowing myself to troll cycle for a blue-black land. I got a little tunnel vision on the mox there. I could have just let Kooom mox be dead in my hand. Or if they bobble me, and that's an if, of course, they haven't done it. So my opponent's up to probably some Treasure Cruise gaming, which is unfortunate for us. Alright. It's unfortunate because my opponent is on control. Yeah, they can go ahead and take out my Ancient Tomb. It's fine because I only need 3 mana. I just need to draw a blue source and then we win. You know, quote unquote, we win. They, of course, have Mana Drain or something similar in hand. But let's force the issue. We have 2 show and tells, right? So let's check the first one into the counterspell, and then we just have to hope they don't have a second counterspell. It's really the best that we could do at this point in the game. We put ourselves in a tricky situation. I think we had the decision with putting this troll under the Kooom mox that we definitely screwed up. I think we should have gotten a Surveil land by cycling him instead. That's an unfortunate strip mine coming through. And strip mine in this game is being what I could describe as a positive force in the format. Like, it's currently keeping the degen stuff in check. Don't quote me on that in like 6 months when I absolutely hate playing against strip mine. But right now it's having an interesting effect on the format that I would describe as like overall positive. Of course that could change once we all get sick of it or once the best strip mine deck really gets figured out, because, you know, showing Lyco Spawn is certainly one hell of a card. And those 2 cards are legal together, which is very scary. But actually, Eldrazi is like such an easy matchup for Slot Machine. Like, it's actually a joke how easily you can just roll over Eldrazi. That's why I was thinking about cutting the consigns from the sideboard. You know, if we turned consigns into Spell Pierce, like I said, for this matchup, been interesting. Are we getting stifled here? Wow, good. Well played, opponent. So we even had access to blue mana, so I don't know if Spell Pierce really works. I'm just going to cling to hope until I cast this show until I know we're like 99% dead. My opponent appears to be like a good control player who knows what they're doing. Yeah, that's all 4 strip mines, unfortunately. But we'll hang on. Hang on until like we're actually out of it. And they slowly get rid of all my reanimate targets. That's fine. Cameo, sure. You know what? I think we're actually out of fetchables. Oh no, we've Undersea Sewers still. I never actually got my Surveil land out of the deck. Okay, never mind. We are not out of fetchables. We're actually doing pretty good. Because we can Surveil for our blue source, and if they don't have counter magic, which would be a minor miracle, then we can win the game. And if they do have counter magic to counter this show and tell, I'll concede. Looking for mana here. That's not mana. I mean, it would be sweet to clear their hand, but no, I need to try to win this turn. Right, we'll hang on to that. They can't draw any more strip lines. It's physically impossible, and I don't think their deck's the kind to recur it. Great. Ooh, we can try to grief scam, but we can't because of Deathrite Shaman. We'll pass one more time. One final pass. If we draw mana, we can evoke grief and then try to show and tell. Alright, I'll go ahead and give it up here. This Deathrite Shaman is killing us pretty quick, and they have enough cards in hand that they are going to definitely be able to answer that. So good show. Control still can beat this archetype. It's what you're gonna be a little soft to. You do fold to interaction, but this version of the deck with Stock Up Gaming actually is able to play through it sometimes. Just this time my opponent also brought the Strip Mines of the Mana Denial, which ended up just being a little bit too much to overcome. Alright, let's get one more game in, because games with this deck go pretty fast when you're not up against control. We're going to be on the draw this time. Is this a keepable hand? I love Stock Up Gaming. We do have access to turn 2 Stock Up after turn 1 discard, but I think we could do just a little bit better. Sure, we have Show and Tell Atraxa probably. And then we have a free Grief to do something. We could Surveil to try to find one more mana source. And my opponent is... Oh no, they're on the 100 and something card special. Alright, you know what, gamers? Listen, honesty's the policy here. I don't like to skip games when I play decks like this, but we're gonna skip this one. I'm gonna give you one more after this, okay? I just don't think beating up Timmy is interesting. Alright, Timmy has done Final Showdown to make my Atraxa lose all its abilities, which was interesting enough to keep in the video. Okay, we successfully beat up Timmy. We're top 10 again. Alright, last game of the video. We're playing against the one and only Kooom Plus. What we got here? We got turn 2 Show and Tell Alenda. Kooom Plus, he plays some Ascended Piles, so I don't know if this is going to beat whatever he's playing. I bet I cast Show and Tell and he puts like some 12 mana card I've never heard of into play. Probably. I don't even know what he's playing. Last time I played against him, he was playing Goblins. God bless him. Alright, this hand's also really good because it's Strip Mine proof. I know Kooom likes to also play Red Prison. So he can't even, like, Strip Mine my Bloodstained Mire here. Alright, oh, Dark Ritual Gaming. Sorin Alenda? We doing it? We're here in the mirror? Thoughtseize, hey, buddy. Well, the good news is they have to take 2 things, right? If I get to keep 1 Show and Tell, it's good enough. If they get rid of Alenda, I can just reanimate it, unless they have a reanimate, in which case I'm going to be a little upset. Okay. Yeah, they take reanimate. Sure. That is going to be fine. And then they reanimate Alenda? Sheesh! Okay. That's a sheesh. Alright, Undercity Sewers, we need a fatty on top. That's not fat enough. We need, like, Atraxa or our own Alenda on top of the library right now. Alright, another Show and Tell. That's not it. We should probably reanimate Grief just to see what's up. Okay, yeah, we're playing the same deck. His is just a little bit differently. He's just got Dark Slick Shores instead of Fetches, probably. Just to save on life, which is a totally fine way to build the deck, by the way. And yeah, looks like we're playing the cool mirror match. I'll go ahead and trade here while I can. Really, we just need to rip Atraxa off the top, or we're screwed. We did not indeed rip Atraxa off the top, sadly. Okay, first mirror match. How are we supposed to sideboard for this? I don't know. I mean, I actually don't know. How are we supposed to sideboard for this? I wish I had no spell piece or something in this consigned slot. I might just run it back. I don't know how to sideboard. I don't think Disruptor Flute is particularly great. Like, it might help me in a pinch, but it's going to hurt me as much as him in the long term. Chrome... I mean, like, Chalice of the Void to hit, like, Chrome Mox and Rituals is fine if, like, we're on the play, right? But then I end up diluting my own deck. I think we're honestly going to run it back. And then you, the wonderful viewer, can bicker in the comments about how you would sideboard the mirror, because I don't know. I think how to sideboard the mirror is I just need to fundamentally have different cards in my sideboard, which I already said Consigned to Memory was on thin ice. Do we want to keep this? So this hand does nothing. Like, it really does nothing. But we thought sees him. No, right? Nah. We should try to win the game. This hand also doesn't do very much. However, we can DT for like a reanimate. I like that. So let's go ahead, put this back. We've stock up gaming for afterward as well. Oh, okay. I don't get to thought seize him at all then. What do we want to do then? Oh, jeez. So yeah, see, this is how you sideboard for the mirror. All right, the one and only Kooom Plus has bested me yet again. Yeah, I don't know. He's 5 steps ahead of me. Thought I would have a free discard here. Dark Ritual DT, we can get something out of our deck. I think we're just gonna troll cycle for blue-black land and we're gonna pass. This isn't great though. I kept in all 8 discard to interact with him. And he just kept the ley line, which really throws a wrench in the plan. Alright, let's go ahead and get Watery Grave here. Okay. Dark Ritual DT for an Elenda. We're going to be a little short on mana at that point. We'll just be 1 short of pulling it off, but I don't see why not just DT for the Elenda right now. You can, of course, Thought Seize and take the Sorin from me, or maybe even take my Elenda and reanimate it, which is very rude. But even if he does, we get to do Dark Ritual, stock up gaming, and hopefully get back into it. This mirror match should really just like show how good stock up gaming is. We're going to save the Dark Ritual on the stack up for a later turn. We're going to let him do his thing on turn 3, because I'm sure he also has, like, a show and tell or something to cheat into play. Oh, you know what? Actually, if he had show and tell, should I have stocked up instead? No. Nah, there's no way I can stock up and play my Sorin, unless I hit more fast mana off of stock up, so never mind then. If he show and tells Atraxa into play here, it's not great for me. And instead we just get a Elenda Mirror, where we get to look at each other. Alright, after a little bit of tanking, Fate's Fetters on Elenda was the play. I think that's fine. Alright, we're going to Dark Ritual stock up, and we're going to hopefully hit something that gives me faith we can win this game. Show and Tell, another Elenda. Reanimate is also pretty good. If I just reanimate the Troll, it's interesting, right? I wonder if I just take a Elenda reanimate, or maybe I can take... The thing is, I really am sus of Show and Tell against this deck, right? Let's take Elenda reanimate. I actually am going to reanimate my Troll. I'm going to first just go to combat, though. You know what I might want to do? I might want to just sacrifice this Cleric to get a guaranteed kill on Sorin. I was thinking about plussing it. Then they're going to trade, and then they're going to start having their own Sorin. So yeah. Let's play Protect the President on Sorin here. Sacrifice this. We'll get a 3/3 off of Elenda here. And then I'm going to take back my Troll. You know, this may even be an argument to take back the Cleric. That's actually really funny, because I would gain 4 more life. Wait, that's actually huge. Yeah. So now I get a 7/7 off of Elenda? That's funny. So, you know, roughly the same. 7/7 is about analogous to the size of this 6/5 Troll that's hard to block, but it cost me a lot less life. In fact, gained me 1 life net instead of costing 6. Right, yep. He should be taking stock up here, of course. And then hopefully we can just, like, start attacking with this 7/7 here. And then every turn we get a new 7/7, which is really dope. And we get a Surveil land as well. And then we could put this other Elenda into play sometime soon. Yep, stock up gaming coming through. He's on Mana Confluence as well, I just noticed. Which is a little painful, right? A little painful. I like having fetches and having access to Surveil lands over playing different kinds of lands. That's just my opinion, of course. Alright, we're going to be going second in this very goofy mirror match. I don't have okay, knowing he has Leyline, like, does Grief have to go? I think does Grief gotta go? Like, what comes in if Grief goes, though? I don't want to just play Chalice just to play Chalice, right? I think we're just gonna keep it and hope he doesn't have a Leyline, or hope we can blow up the Leyline with Lenda. I'll think about the mirror and add a sideboard for it later. Alright, what we got here? What's the plan? The plan is to DT for a Sorin. Opponent goes first. It sets on mana because I do need to draw another mana source, and if I do, then we could just, DT for Sorin, win the game. I'm gonna keep this. As a Lenda is a fine thing to put into play off of Show and Tell. If they like show Atraxa on turn 1, we can go ahead and like try to... Oh, we can't face betters at instant speed, can we? But we can at least put something into play. But if he has his own Sorin Lenda here, then maybe I should have mulliganed a bit more aggressively to try and find something, right? DT on turn 1. Okay. That is fine by me. Hopefully DT turn 1 means he doesn't have enough sauce to actually win turn 1. But we'll see. If I win, I mean, of course, do something busted like putting Atraxa into play. He's gonna Thoughtseize himself and reanimate Atraxa? That's so based, so based, so based. Awesome turn 1. Exactly 0 mana left over too. Well done. Alright, what'd they hit? Because we're gonna grief them, right? We should grief them and take the reanimate. They will get to just keep that Atraxa. This is actually like a really, really weak Atraxa hit. This is like probably bottom 5% of their possible Atraxa hits. Like that is just weak sauce, what they ended up getting stuck with there. We can actually take the Atraxa and the reanimate here, which is dope. Oh, we can take... Yeah. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take Atraxa. Dark Ritual DT, reanimate his Atraxa. What a game, what a game. Oh, I'm so glad we got this for the video. This is so goofy. Alright, the good old Atraxa Olympics coming through. So we can take Sorin Alenda. I'm actually going to take Atraxa because we have 2 Alendas in hand. We have a Thoughtseize, so we're going to take a Stock Up Gaming. We're going to take mana, we're going to take mana. And we got to go straight to discard. I really do not want to discard a creature, because then he will reanimate it. I really want to keep all of my cards. Oh, maybe I get rid of Stock Up Gaming, right? Are we really going to get to stock up this game? Probably not anytime soon. I just can't have these creatures hit the bin because I left him with this reanimate in hand. I do want to Thoughtseize him to clear it. I could have just discarded the Thoughtseize, I guess. Knowing that we're about to put Saint Alenda into play, I'm going to take this trade. Actually, what I could have done is I could have like let it hit me and then just put Fate's Betters on this. Hey, what do you got there? Oh, right. They have the reanimate. I'm sorry, a little brain fart there. I was supposed to take the damage and not let them reanimate that. I don't know why I did. My bad. I wasn't paying attention. Alright, I let them get back into this game. They get Sorin Alenda? Oh, geez. Alright, so now this game gets really interesting to navigate. I did that for content, of course. Yeah, that was my bad. I was totally not supposed to block there. I just forgot what card he had in hand. I just assumed that the game was wrapped up. I get to reanimate my Grief for another Atraxa too, which is very messed up. Actually, you know what? I think we lost the game because of that mistake, because of this Grief coming through. All right, do we have outs here? I'm gonna go ahead and say no. I'm gonna go ahead and give the game over. All right, we threw that last game away, but still had a lot of fun with this deck overall. There was a pretty good demonstration of the power of this deck, and even if you got to see it from the opponent's side of the board, like that last game, how they got to dig a bunch with Atraxa. Like after putting Atraxa into play, they hit a bunch of action, like including Grief, additional reanimates, and the deck really doesn't run out of gas when you get in situations like that. Unfortunately, we were on the losing side that time. The only bit of deck construction that I'm not sure of right now, I've mentioned this before, I don't know what the consigns should be. I wasn't sure exactly when Chalice should come in. I think we might be like slightly over relying on discard, but I really do like discard. I'm gonna go ahead and like steal one from Kooom Plus and go ahead and say that maybe we just want a Leyline of Sanctity in the deck. Maybe we want all of them. I don't think we really need this worm against energy, to be honest. And I think maybe the deck should look like this moving forward. It's a little hard to get blue mana in this deck as well. Like, I know we're playing blue cards in Stock Up and Show and Tell, but this deck doesn't always have blue on turn one. If you go ahead and like actually count the blue sources, we have 15 lands in this deck, right? But 4 of them are Ancient Tomb, and this swamp also doesn't make basic blue. Doesn't make any blue mana, doesn't have the island type, right? So that's 10 blue sources here. And then Chrome Mox technically gets you to 14, but like you'd have to pitch a Stock Up or a Show and Tell or an Atraxa, which is a very limited selection from among the cards in your deck. So I'm a little sus on blue sideboard cards. Otherwise, I would totally entertain Spell Pierce, Flusterstorm, and similar cards in the sideboard. I think other than that, we'll call that a video. This was hopefully a good demonstration of the power of the deck, and have fun gambling.